But let's get started. Representative Ilhan Omar projected to win the Democratic House primary. Let's take a look. Now, you have to remember that AIPAC and other people had actually tried to cook Ilhan Omar and launch primary challengers against her and Rashida Tlaib far before this last midterm election cycle. This time around, they didn't even dump a lot of money into this one, into this race, I believe, because she had already been tested time and time again. We're gonna be at least celebrating one W this primary season. They did that with Cori Bush. They successfully dismantled Cori Bush's campaign by dumping around $8 million. AIPAC subsidiaries dumping around $8 million. Not really talking about the issue of Israel either on the ads, obviously, because no one would give a shit in Missouri about that as a talking point, but more so just like separating her from the Democratic Party because it's the Democratic Party's primary, claiming that she was never around to vote for bills, and really hammering in on her weaknesses. They did that also successfully with Jamal Bowman, as you guys know, in New York. But they didn't really dump a lot of money into the Ilhan Omar primary, and she handily won her race. So we are going to be watching now some updates from NBC News.
A congressional race.
I don't know why this guy looks like the dude from American History X. What's his name? Ed Norton.
We were watching this week. This is NBC News projecting that Minnesota Congresswoman Ilhan Omar is the winner in the Democratic primary in their 5th congressional district, defeating former Minneapolis City Council member Don Samuels in a primary rematch. Walk us through this win for Congresswoman Omar and for progressives generally.
There's a lot of attention on this race because Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush were two fellow members of the Progressive Squad in the U.S. House Democratic Caucus. And both of those members, they lost primary races this summer. And so the question was Ilhan Omar ultimately going to be able to hold onto her Minneapolis seat?
And she did. And I think this is part of the reason why she was able to do so. Okay.
May Allah awaken the people and help them to see the evil doings of Israel and the United States. May Allah awaken the people and help them to see the evil doings of Israel and the United States.
That's literally the only thing I could hear last night when I got the news that Ilhan Omar had won her primary. Inshallah, my friend. This meme will never not get me cackling. It is probably the best. It is probably the best possible meme. Okay.
And she faced an onslaught of criticism for being an outspoken critic of the Israeli government's war in Gaza. She also voted against the bipartisan infrastructure package that was brought forward by the Biden administration. She wanted more social spending to go along with that infrastructure package. And her primary opponent was highly critical, saying that she was not focused on the issues that were important to her local congressional district there in the greater Minneapolis area. But as you saw, she narrowly pulling off a victory. She will, very likely, knowing that in the general election, this is all but a solid win, as you well know, Joe, she will be returning to Congress.
This was the real race.
Yeah, get fucked, okay? Get fucked, everybody that was preying on her downfall. I love Ilhan Omar, as you guys know. She's my uncompromising queen. Phenomenal politician. And you know, notice how the analysis changes dramatically, by the way, when she won, because when Cori Bush lost and when Jamal Bowman lost, immediately mainstream media, for the most part, started talking about how, oh, it was because of AIPAC, it was because of Israel, it's because of like Israel. It's like that wasn't the main point of contention at all in these races. It was not even the major point of contention in New York, despite the fact that Jamal Bowman had been redistricted, okay? And there were some voters that might care about that a little bit more. Ultimately, the major point of contention in terms of like what AIPAC money was doing was to separate Jamal Bowman from the Democratic Party. It was to separate Cori Bush from the Democratic Party. However, when Ilhan Omar is presented in a similar light and still overcoming her primary challenges, partially as a consequence of not having as many funds dumped into that from outside groups, and partially because she is a resilient and relatively strong candidate that is well liked by her constituents, the dynamic changes, the analysis changes, and they go, oh yeah, well, she was very strong about making sure that there was full commitment to the original Biden infrastructure bill, the Build Back Better bill. Ilhan Omar has also obviously withstood unimaginable amounts of racist attacks time and time again. And she has overcome all of that. Like, think about it this way. This is one of the congresspersons in this country that has had to deal with, like, people straight up openly saying on Tucker Carlson, at the time, the most popular news broadcast in the country, right? With millions of people tuning in, people were unironically investigating her trash and trying to do DNA tests to make this, like, incredibly racist claim that, like, she had married her brother and all this stuff. Like, just so incredibly creepy and so incredibly gross. And part of the only reason why that was permissible, that was allowed in the eyes of many of these fucking freaks in a way that you can't really get away with for any other candidate, is because she was a black woman, a refugee from Somalia, and also on top of that, Muslim, visibly Muslim. She wears a hijab. That made it so that she was a target-rich environment, and that, like, you could get away with saying whatever the fuck you want about her. And I have obviously never forgotten that. I've never let that go. And not only that, but also Republicans are doing exactly what is expected, gearing up for another January 6th style situation, because they just simply do not fucking understand how projections work. Most of the conversation surrounding this, most of the conspiracy theories surrounding this kind of thing, in terms of how elections and how votes are tabulated and how projections are made by news media before every single vote is counted, comes from a clear-cut lack of understanding of the process. Republicans do this on a daily basis. Here's Ryan Fournier, chair of Trump Students, executive director, and contributed to Today's America, big-time Trump guy, saying, how in the hell did Ilhan's district go from 5% reporting to 95% within an hour, giving her the win? Never saw this before. I don't know if you know this, but a general election is coming up, okay? They might have figured out how to tabulate results pretty fast. You know what I'm saying? That could be one of the reasons. Another reason is because, like, a lot of these channels actually operate on projections, right? There are many different mechanisms that the average person is unfamiliar with in an effort to get this information before the general public gets it. This is how a lot of news broadcasters operate. Okay. What about the heartbreaking Will Stancil laws? Oh my God. I don't even care. I'm so fucking irrelevant. But overall, this is not new. It happens in Republican races as well. I know. But that doesn't stop Republicans from saying that there is a conspiracy, does it? One of my favorite cases on this was obviously Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you recall, Marjorie Taylor Greene was on the same fucking ballot as Donald Trump. And she kept on running with this narrative that Donald Trump actually had the election stolen from him. Except she was on the same ballot. The fuck do you mean? Like, how does that work, Marjorie Taylor Greene? It don't matter. It don't matter. Just like when Republicans talk about universal ballot registration, or when they talk about mail-in votes, when they talk about mail-in ballots, there are Republican states with mail-in ballots that have been around, that have had this process for a very long time, Utah being one of them. Trump himself in the state of Florida actually is a mail-in ballot voter, which is why it is ridiculous to run against this process. But the reason why they run against the process is so that they can gear up their fan base into claiming or disputing the results of the election and claiming that there was some kind of theft, some kind of thievery occurring, the 2,000 mules or whatever. Okay? Classic heads I win, tails you lose logic. Exactly. So, wonderful stuff going on, though. Love that. Definitely people should not, people probably shouldn't be worried about such a thing. You having this convo 4 years ago?
Isn't it a bit premature to announce Biden as the winner when the votes are still being counted? The media dunked on Trump for declaring himself the winner before vote counting stopped. Now they're all doing the same thing. Same shit, way not to be biased. My man, if you don't understand how projections are declared by the media, historically, like throughout time, then that's not our fault. Yeah, you can't project someone to be the winner when swing states are still counting votes, when it's a close race. I didn't hear you crying when Kentucky went to Donald Trump immediately. Like, I didn't hear you go, wait a minute, all the votes haven't been counted in Kentucky. Like, what's going on? Bitch, because we know. We know which way Kentucky swings. We know which way Alabama swings. We know where Tennessee's going. I'm sorry. I can't believe they declared Joe Biden the winner before all the votes came in from Alaska. What the hell are they doing? What, do my votes not matter? Do the Alaskan votes don't matter? Is that what you're saying to me? Now, the one part that I'm worried about is that the silent majority, sorry, the can't shut the fuck up minority will actually go silent, will actually go quiet after this. And I'm fearful. I'm fearful that they will take it too far and start getting violent. I'm fearful of that. But also,
by the way, this was before January 6th. Just saying, does he have the gift of sight? Does he have the vision? Lisan al-Gaib is what many people are saying. Turns out he does have the gift of foresight, okay? He does. It's called pre-watch Piker. At it again. That was before January 6th. I was like, listen, they're gearing up their fucking entire fandom to dispute the results. And one other thing that I probably mentioned in this video that I have talked about so many times over as well is that this is a false attribution to Donald Trump. If you single out Donald Trump as the only person responsible for January 6th, you're actually running cover for the rest of the Republican Party. Okay? I know I talk about this here, and I have talked about it many, many times over. Republicans have always run on disputing election results, even when they win, because one method for the Republican Party is to suppress voters, okay? And how do you suppress voters? You take voters off the ballots, okay? You purge the voter names off the registry. You shut down polling stations. How do you get to do all of this? You have to lie about there being massive electoral fraud, election fraud. So it's not necessarily just Donald Trump that has actually said that these elections are cooked and they're lying. He just took it to the logical conclusion, right? He just took it to the logical conclusion. Republicans, including beloved figures that are seen as like mainstream Republicans, have also cast doubt on election results in the past, or have also said undocumented migrants are voting. They've alluded to that. They've pointed to that time and time again, including but not limited to the likes of Paul Ryan. Okay, so it's not just a Donald Trump thing. This has always been a Republican Party thing. They've always done it. Okay, they've always done it. So make no mistake, Kevin McCarthy himself has also cast doubt on certain results. So the notion that there is like an honest Republican out there, there's an honest Republican Party out there, no, bullshit. They've always cast doubt on it. And much like so many of the other Republican panics that the American population gets swept away with, it's born out of hysteria and nothing else. Okay, guess what? A lot of the American structure is fundamentally flawed. Our infrastructure is busted. We have a lot of problems. But if you want to be real, the American election process is pretty fucking solid. Okay, I hate to give America a dub on this, but real recognize real. The American votes are tabulated accurately, and there is very little there's very little voter fraud happening in the country. And there have been a million different studies on this from Republicans who want to prove that the American elections are always engineered and that the American elections are stolen by the Democrats every time they win, or stolen by the Democrats even when they lose, or even when they do win the Electoral College. Like Trump literally also put together an election integrity committee after the 2016 election that he fucking won, by the way. And every single one of those committees comes back with the same exact answer, that no, voter fraud is not happening. One of the most famous examples of this is, I believe it's either the American Enterprise Institute or the Heritage Foundation. Which one is it, chat? You can correct me. One of those two major Republican think tanks conducted a massive study on this, okay? It's one, it is the one that they use all the time. I believe it's the Heritage Foundation. Okay? I believe it is the Heritage Foundation. Also, here's Paul Ryan in 2018. Paul Ryan isn't saying there was voter fraud in California, but saying that the election system is just bizarre. It defies logic to me. We had a lot of wins that night, and 3 weeks later, we lost basically every contested California race. The election system they have, I can't begin to understand what ballot harvesting is. Here is the most comprehensive election fraud cases from across the United States by the Heritage Foundation. This is the database. What is really funny about this is that they have found 1,546 proven instances of voter fraud over the course of 30 fucking years, bro. 30 years. Midterm elections, general elections, like local elections, every single election, they tabulated all of it, and they only found 1,546 proven instances of voter fraud with 1,313 criminal convictions for voter fraud. A lot of those guys are also Republican, by the way. This isn't just like Democrats. So that makes it even funnier. Let's split it 50-50. That is so marginal and so unlikely that you couldn't even swing like the fucking comptroller election in Los Angeles with, if that was all focused in one fucking race in a place like California, if all of those proven instances of voter fraud were over one fucking election, it still wouldn't be able to change the outcome. That is why this is all complete nonsense. And what's funny about it is that their own personal election integrity committees, including the one that George W. Bush ironically put forward, including the bipartisan voter election committees that are put forward, none of them have ever found anything beyond the margins. They've never been able to prove that like voter fraud is happening consistently. Part of that is because it's far too difficult to put together a comprehensive mechanism of voter fraud. You would have to have so many people in on it. You would have to have tens of thousands of people in on this massive conspiracy, which is precisely the reason why they've never been able to prove it. And it's just born out of pure panic and hysteria and like secret migrants somehow being able to vote on elections, and all of them are voting Democrat. The 2022 LA comptroller election was decided by a 214,000 vote margin. He did get, a lot of votes though, Kenneth Mejia. So that's it. It's complete and utter nonsense, and yet they are obviously gearing up their fan base for this idiotic conspiracy. An idiotic conspiracy that I still suspect will not lead to another January 6th style situation, because January 6th obviously happened, and also ultimately, there were criminal consequences for it. For the first time ever, you got HVAC business owners who are white supremacists and the like, who have always been defended by the system, not be defended by the system unconditionally, which was obviously refreshing for us, watchers of American politics from afar on the left. It was surprising, but it was also surprising for them. So I think that they won't put themselves out there once again because there's too much to lose. Once they actually saw repercussions, criminal repercussions, I feel like that, really just nip that shit in the bud forever. Didn't you say you're not going to make fun of HVAC business owners after experiencing the horrors of European AC? That's true. I apologize. You're right. I much love to the HVAC business owners. Much love to my HVAC specialists out there. I love you all. Without you, this would be communist Europe, and I would die in the heat. So yeah.
Right here, yeah. Thanks for watching. Stay updated.
That's my goat. NBC News right there.